February 14, 2000. 3:30 in the morning. Shelby, North Carolina. A storm is battering the area. Heavy rain. Strong winds. Temperature 34 degrees Fahrenheit. Asha Degree, 9 years old, runs out of her house. Alone. No coat. Just her backpack. At 4 in the morning, 2 truck drivers see her walking alone on Highway 18, 1 mile from her home. When one turns around to help her, Asha runs into the woods and disappears. 25 years later, never found. Asha was shy. She was afraid of storms. She was afraid of the dark. She never disobeyed her parents. So why did she run out that night? Nobody knows. But in 2024, 24 years after her disappearance, police finally have suspects. They have DNA. They have confessions at parties. They have text messages that say, "I did it. It was an accident. We covered it up." And they have a green 1964 car. The same car witnesses saw Asha get into. The family says, "We know nothing." Investigators say they're lying. 25 years. No body. No answers. Until now. Asha Degree was born on August 5, 1990 in Shelby, North Carolina. Her parents, Harold and Aquila Degree, had married on February 14, 1988, Valentine's Day. They had another child, O'Brien, born in 1989, only 11 months older than Asha. The Degrees were a close-knit, religious family. They lived in a 2-bedroom duplex house on Oakcrest Drive, in a residential area surrounded by rural zones north of Shelby. Harold's mother and sister lived on the same street. The family spent a lot of time together with extended family and at church. Asha was described by everyone as a cautious, shy but happy child. She was well loved within her family and the church community. Her parents said she was a well-behaved girl who did well in school and was mostly content to stay within the boundaries they set. Asha's parents had decided not to have a computer at home because they felt there were many dangers lurking on the internet for children. But as we all know, dangers don't just lurk on the internet. They also lurk in our communities, in our schools, on our streets. Asha and O'Brien shared a bedroom. Both Asha and her brother loved sports. Asha was a star point guard on her youth basketball team, the Falston Bulldogs. She was competitive, disciplined, committed. Basketball was her passion. Harold Degree worked on a loading dock. Aquila worked for a piano manufacturer. They were hardworking, devout, caring. By all accounts, theirs was a happy family. There were no signs of problems. No signs of abuse. No signs of dysfunction. Police quickly ruled out the family as suspects. Everyone in the community knew it. The Degrees were good people. So what led Asha to run out of her house in the middle of a storm in the early morning of February 14, 2000? To understand that, we need to look at the days before her disappearance. On Saturday, February 12, 2 days before Asha disappeared, her basketball team played a game. It was the first game of the season they lost, and Asha fouled out during the game by committing too many personal fouls. She left the game before it ended. She couldn't finish playing alongside her teammates. Asha was devastated. She cried along with some of the other girls on the team. She blamed herself for the defeat. She was so competitive, so hard on herself. Her parents had to calm her down. Her teammates had to calm her down. But by the end of the afternoon, when Asha attended her brother's basketball game a few hours later, she seemed to have recovered. She was in good spirits. She was smiling. She was cheering for her brother. She seemed to have gotten over the disappointment. Or had she? Investigators have always considered whether her disappointment over the game was a factor in her possible decision to run away. Weeks after Asha's disappearance, her team won their league championship and gave her family a trophy naming her the Falston Bulldogs' most valuable player. But Asha never knew. On Sunday, February 13th, the day before her disappearance, the Degree family attended church as usual. Then they had lunch with the children's aunt and grandmother. The next day would be not only Valentine's Day but also Harold and Aquila's wedding anniversary. During all this time, Asha acted completely normal and happy. She returned home with her mother and brother while her father went to work Sunday afternoon. Neither Aquila nor O'Brien noticed anything unusual about Asha's behavior that evening. The weather was getting stormy. At some point in the night, the power went out in the neighborhood. Around 8 in the evening, both Asha and O'Brien went to sleep in the bedroom they shared. There was a storm in the area, and around 9 at night, the electricity cut out. It came back on a few hours later, around 12:30 in the morning. Around that time, Harold checked on the children. Both were asleep in their beds. Harold then checked again around 2:30 in the morning, before going to sleep himself. Both children were still sleeping in their beds. O'Brien mentioned that at some point in the night he heard Asha's bed creak, but he simply thought she was moving and changing position. He didn't wake up further. Apparently around that time, between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning, Asha got out of bed. She took a backpack she had previously packed with several sets of clothes and personal items, and she left the house. Aquila woke up around 5:45 in the morning. She went to wake the children around 6:15 in the morning to get them ready for school. Asha wasn't in her bed. Aquila checked all over the house looking for her daughter. She wasn't anywhere, she told Harold. He suggested that maybe she had gone to his sister's house, which was on the same street. She wasn't there either. At 6:30 in the morning on February 14, 2000, Asha Degree was reported missing. The search began immediately. Police arrived at the Degree home within minutes. They checked the house. There were no signs of forced entry. The doors were locked from the inside. The windows were closed. There were no signs of struggle. No signs that someone had taken Asha from the house by force. Everything indicated that Asha had left voluntarily. But why? And where did she go? They brought in tracking dogs. But the dogs couldn't follow a scent trail, most likely due to the strong winds from the night before. Also, the fact that the other 3 people who shared the house with Asha and probably had very similar scents on their clothing were present may have been a confounding factor. The next stages of the investigation focused on searching the neighborhood and examining the house in more detail. Later it was discovered that some of Asha's clothes were missing. Not just the clothes she was wearing when she left, but multiple sets of clothes. This suggested she had packed in advance. By the afternoon of February 14th, the story was circulating in the media. And then 2 people who had been driving on nearby Highway 18 early in the morning independently reported strange sightings. The first witness was a truck driver. He said that around 4 in the morning while driving on Highway 18, he saw a little girl walking alone. She was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt and white pants. She was carrying a backpack. The witness characterized the weather as a raging storm. Heavy rain, strong winds, and there was this little girl walking alone on the highway. No coat, just her backpack. Asha was walking south on Highway 18 in the opposite direction of her school. She was approximately 1.5 miles from her home. The second witness was a driver in a car. He also saw a girl matching Asha's description around 4 in the morning. He found it strange that such a small child would be alone at that hour. He turned his car around. He wanted to make sure she was okay. He made 3 circles trying to approach her. But when the driver got close, Asha ran off the road and into the woods alongside. She disappeared among the trees. That was the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. The witnesses reported their sightings to police later that day after hearing the news that Asha was missing. Police believed these sightings were genuine and accurate. So Asha was alive at 4 in the morning on February 14, 2000. She was walking alone on Highway 18. And when someone tried to help her, she fled into the woods. What? But before we continue with what happened next, there's something you need to understand. Something that makes this case even more inexplicable. Asha Degree was 9 years old. She was shy, cautious, obedient. She was afraid of storms. She was afraid of the dark. She had never given any indication that she was going to run away from home. She had never mentioned wanting to leave. There were no signs of problems in her family. No signs of abuse. No signs of distress. And yet, in the middle of a stormy winter night, with a temperature of 34 degrees, she left her house voluntarily. She walked 1.5 miles down a dark highway. And when someone tried to help her, she fled. Experts say most children who run away are at least 12 years old. Asha was 9. Children who run away generally have a reason. Family problems, poor academic performance, abuse, difficulties with friends. Asha had none of these reasons. An FBI agent pointed to the lack of an issue she might have been running away from. She's not your typical runaway, observed FBI agent Bart Burpo. So if she wasn't running away, what was she doing? One theory is that Asha believed she was going to meet someone. Someone who lived nearby who could offer shelter. Or someone she believed would pick her up in a warm car. This would explain why she left without a coat. If she believed she would only be outside for a few minutes before someone picked her up, she wouldn't need a coat. But who? And why? The massive search for Asha began immediately. Police, sometimes accompanied by police dogs, exhaustively searched the streets around Highway 18. They inspected garbage containers. They checked drains. They talked to residents. They asked if anyone had seen Asha. Nobody had seen anything after 4 in the morning. Flyers with Asha's photo were printed. The flyers were distributed widely throughout Shelby and surrounding areas. The media covered the story extensively. The community mobilized. Thousands of people joined the search. They searched the 2 to 3 mile radius area where she was last seen. They searched abandoned houses. They searched wells. They searched the woods where she ran. And then, 3 days after her disappearance, they found something. On February 16th, the morning after Asha was reported missing, an upholstery business owner named Turner's Upholstery noticed some peculiar things inside the doorway of her tool shed. There was a white Atlanta 1996 Olympics pencil, a green marker, and a Mickey Mouse hair bow. The woman didn't think much of it at the time. But when she heard about Asha's disappearance a few days later, she contacted police. The objects were analyzed. They belonged to Asha. Turner's upholstery shed was near where Asha had last been seen on Highway 18. The theory was that Asha had sought shelter from the weather in the shed at some point after running into the woods. But why did she leave those objects there? Did she shelter in the shed briefly and then continue? Did someone find her there? Candy wrappers were also found in the shed. The search continued for days, weeks, thousands of hours of searching. 9,000 man-hours invested. 300 leads submitted, from possible sightings to tips about abandoned houses and wells where Asha might have ended up. But they didn't find Asha. On February 22nd, a week after Asha's disappearance, County Sheriff Dan Crawford said at a press conference, "We have never really had that first good, substantial lead." He urged the media to keep the story alive. Crawford said he was going long range with the search for Asha. Both the FBI and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation got involved and put her on their respective databases of missing children. In March 2000, police erected a full-size color billboard along Highway 18, near where Asha was last seen. It featured Asha's image and identifying information. But months passed, and there were no signs of Asha. So what happened to Asha Degree after she ran into the woods at 4 in the morning on February 14, 2000? Nobody knows. But a year and a half later, a clue appeared. A clue that would change the entire investigation. On August 3, 2001, a year and a half after Asha's disappearance, construction workers were digging an access road for a new home in Burke County, near Morganton, North Carolina. Burke County is about 26 miles north of the last sighting of Asha in Shelby. It's along Highway 18, the same highway where Asha was seen walking. The workers found something buried in the ground. A backpack. It was wrapped in 2 sealed black garbage bags. They opened the backpack. Inside was a name and phone number. The name was Asha Degree. The backpack was taken to the FBI for forensic analysis at their laboratory in Quantico, Virginia. Inside the backpack they found Asha's clothes and personal items. But they also found 2 objects that didn't belong to Asha. A new Kids on the Block concert t-shirt. And a children's book, McElligott's Pool, by Dr. Seuss. Neither the t-shirt nor the book belonged to Asha. However, the book was from the library at Asha's school, Falston Elementary. But it hadn't been checked out by Asha. So whose were these objects? Who put the book in Asha's backpack? Who gave her the t-shirt? The backpack had been buried. Someone had wrapped it in 2 garbage bags. Someone had put it in the ground and covered it. Someone didn't want it to be found. But who? Investigators released images of the t-shirt and book in 2018, hoping to jog people's memories who might have helpful information. But nobody came forward with conclusive information. The discovery of the backpack fundamentally changed the investigation. This was no longer about a girl who had run away and perhaps gotten lost or had an accident. Someone had taken Asha's backpack. Someone had wrapped it. Someone had buried it. 26 miles north of where she was last seen. Asha couldn't have walked 26 miles in the middle of a storm. Not at 9 years old. Not in those conditions. Someone had picked her up. Someone had taken her to Burke County. And someone had disposed of her backpack. Investigators now believed Asha had been abducted after leaving her home. But by whom? In 2015, 15 years after Asha's disappearance, the FBI joined state and county authorities in a thorough re-examination of the case. This generated more than 350 leads, including 45 in the year before the 20th anniversary alone. The 2015 reinvestigation also revealed another possible lead. A witness came forward saying they had seen Asha get into a dark green car. The car was a 1970s Lincoln Continental Mark IV or Ford Thunderbird, with rust around the wheel wells. The FBI publicly announced this potential lead in 2016 and released images of the vehicle models. We encourage anybody out there that if they have any information, no matter how small or minor it may seem, it might be extremely crucial to further us getting one step closer to Asha. said FBI Special Agent Michael Gregory, who was now leading the case for the Bureau. But years passed, and there were no significant breakthroughs. The case was going cold. Asha's family maintained hope, holding an annual march every February, retracing what they believed was the path Asha took the night she disappeared. "She's the first thing on my mind when I wake up in the morning and the last thing on my mind when I go to sleep at night," said Asha Degree, Asha's mother. "I will never give up on her." Asha believed Asha was alive. "After 20 years, I still believe my daughter is alive," she said. "I do not believe she is dead. And I know someone knows something. I'm not crazy enough to think that a 9-year-old can disappear into thin air without somebody knowing something." But in her heart, I think Asha knew the truth. 25 years is a long time. If Asha were alive, she would now be 34 years old. She would have found a way to contact her family. Unless she was being held against her will. Unless something terrible had happened to her. And then, in September 2024, 24 years after Asha's disappearance, everything changed. On September 10th and 11th, 2024, the FBI, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation executed search warrants at multiple properties in Shelby and surrounding areas. They searched a house and property in Shelby, an assisted living facility in Vail, a home in Charlotte. The locations were owned by and lived in by members of the Dedmon family. The Dedmon family had never been publicly mentioned in connection with Asha's case before. They were, to the public, complete unknowns. But investigators had been working this lead for years, and they finally had enough evidence to obtain search warrants. The search warrants were initially sealed. Sheriff Alan Norman confirmed the search was related to Asha Degree's disappearance but provided no details. And then, on September 16, 2024, the search warrants were made public. And they revealed something shocking. The search warrants stated unequivocally for the first time what many had long feared. Authorities now believed Asha Degree is a victim of homicide with her body concealed. Asha was dead, and someone had hidden her body. The warrants named specific members of the Dedmon family as persons of interest. Roy Lee Dedmon, the family patriarch, his wife Connie Elliott Dedmon, and their 3 daughters, Lizzie Grace Dedmon Foster, Sarah Gwen Dedmon Capel, and AnnaLee Victoria Dedmon Ramirez. At the time of Asha's disappearance, Lizzie was 16 years old, Sarah was 15, and AnnaLee was 13. They were teenagers when Asha disappeared. Investigators analyzed evidence recovered from Asha's backpack for DNA. The results, according to the warrants, narrowed the samples down to 2 people other than Asha, a man named Russell Bradley Underhill and a hereditary family member of Roy Lee Dedmon and his wife Connie. Underhill had lived in at least 2 facilities operated by the Dedmons at the time Asha was reported missing, according to the warrants. He died in 2004. The Dedmons' 3 daughters, meanwhile, had all been children when Asha disappeared. DNA samples indicated the likelihood that the hair stem sample from Asha's undershirt was a person genetically identical to the DNA standard collected from AnnaLee Victoria Dedmon Ramirez. AnnaLee's DNA was on Asha's clothing. During the September searches, investigators seized a green 1964 AMC Rambler from one of Roy Dedmon's properties. The car had very similar features to the vehicle Asha was allegedly seen getting into. The car was registered in Roy Lee Dedmon's name. One of his daughters said she had been given the car when she was 16. The pieces were beginning to fit together. But the question remained, what exactly happened? How did Asha die? Where is her body? David R. Teddy, Roy Lee Dedmon's attorney, held a press conference on September 13, 2024. He said his client and family denied any knowledge about what happened to Asha. Teddy also said he believed the search warrants would link someone who had already died to Asha's disappearance. "I think there will be info that sadly will link a person to the circumstances of Asha's disappearance who is no longer living," Teddy speculated. Was he referring to Russell Underhill, the man whose DNA was found in Asha's backpack and who died in 2004? Maybe. But investigators weren't convinced Underhill was solely responsible. The investigations continued. And in February 2025, 25 years after Asha's disappearance, more shocking details were revealed. The week after law enforcement searched the Dedmon's properties in September 2024, a man went to the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office for an interview with investigators. The man said that in his 20s and the mid-2000s, he occasionally frequented bars and house parties with the 3 Dedmon sisters. He remembered one party in particular. Lizzie Dedmon Foster was there. She was extremely intoxicated. She was sobbing and bawling, according to the man's testimony, and at some point in the night, Lizzie said something. something the man never forgot. She said, "I killed Asha Degree." The man heard it clearly. Lizzie admitted to killing Asha Degree. Her sister Sarah Dedmon Capel was nearby. When she heard what Lizzie said, she became stern and angry. She told Lizzie, "Shut the fuck up." Sarah's behavior caught the man off guard. He had normally seen her be calm and nice, but that night she was furious. She wanted Lizzie to stop talking. The man told this story to investigators. They gave him a polygraph test to verify the information he shared. He passed the test. Now, polygraph tests are not admissible as evidence in most states, including North Carolina. But for investigators, this was important corroboration that the man was telling the truth as he remembered it. Investigators approached Lizzie on September 28, 2024 at her home in Texas to discuss the case. She refused to talk. The next day, Lizzie and Sarah exchanged text messages about whether they should cooperate with investigators. "Honestly, I want to do what Dad says. But damn," Lizzie wrote. Her sister responded later, "You don't want something we do or say to impact him, but we also can't be living like this either." In October 2024, law enforcement obtained a search warrant for Lizzie Foster's iCloud account. They reviewed several iMessages and included conversations of interest in the February search warrants. The details in the search warrants focused particularly on Foster's conversations with Capel, her sister Dedmon Ramirez, and Foster's ex-husband. The text messages painted a picture of a family in crisis. A family that knew investigators were closing in. A family that was scared. On September 10, 2024, when the searches were about to begin, Capel sent a text message to Foster that said, in part, "Dad is probably going to be a huge suspect." The next day, September 11th, Ramirez sent a message to Foster that said, "Lizzie, you don't need to be talking to anyone. I'm at the lawyer's office." The sisters were consulting with lawyers. They were preparing. Foster responded, "What's gonna happen to me since I wouldn't talk to them?" Then followed up with another message, "I'm afraid it's going to get worse." In a message to her sister Capel sent on September 12, 2024, Foster said she spoke with the family lawyer and said, "The theory is I did it. Accident. Covered it up." Foster was acknowledging, at least in text messages with her sister, that investigators believed she had killed Asha accidentally and then covered it up. Was this true? Or was it just what investigators theorized? There were more messages. Capel to Foster, "They think it's our shirt. It's not her shirt." Capel was referring to the New Kids on the Block t-shirt found in Asha's backpack. Capel to Foster, "Her mom said it wasn't hers." Capel to Foster, "I don't remember that shirt. I'm scared though. Dad is probably going to be a huge suspect." AnnaLee Dedmon Ramirez to Foster, "Lizzie, you don't need to be talking to anyone. I'm at the lawyer's office now. They advise we should all not talk to them." Foster to her ex-husband, "This is going to get nothing but worse." Foster to her ex-husband, "I'm talking to my doctor." These text messages were included in the search warrants executed on February 13, 2025. Authorities seized cell phones from Lizzie Foster, Sarah Capel, and Roy Dedmon. On February 10, 2025, 25 years after Asha's disappearance, the investigator approached Foster again. The warrant said she became very emotional and agreed to take a lie detector test. She was asked if she was concealing information. The results found she was deceptive, according to the documents. During an interview, the warrant said she told the investigator, "If my dad did it, he did it, but I had nothing to do with it." After the February 10th interview, the warrant said Foster immediately called her ex-husband for more than 45 minutes. The ex-husband has been uncooperative with the investigation, according to the warrants. An interview with Capel was also requested on February 10th, but she declined to talk until a later date. So what does all this evidence suggest? Investigators believe Lizzie Dedmon Foster, who was 16 years old at the time of Asha's disappearance, was somehow involved in Asha's death. Possibly it was an accident. Possibly there was a cover-up. Her sister AnnaLee's DNA, who was 13 at the time, was found on Asha's clothing. Russell Underhill's DNA, a man who lived in facilities operated by the Dedmons, was also found in Asha's backpack. A green 1964 car owned by Roy Dedmon matches descriptions of the car witnesses saw Asha get into. A former Dedmon employee informed investigators they were told Roy Lee Dedmon would send his 16 to 17-year-old daughter Lizzie to transport patients in an unreliable vehicle to and from Broughton Hospital in Morganton. The warrants went on to say that Highway 18 was the most logical route from the nursing home to the hospital. Morganton is in Burke County, where Asha's backpack was found. The pieces were beginning to form a picture. But here's what we still don't know. What exactly happened the night of February 14, 2000? How did Asha know the Dedmon family? Why did she leave her house? Was she planning to meet someone? Did the Dedmon family pick her up on Highway 18 after she ran into the woods? Investigators have theories. But to this day, nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been charged. The Dedmon family, through their attorney, continues to deny any involvement. But investigators believe they have enough evidence for probable cause of obstruction of justice against Roy Dedmon, Lizzie Foster, and Sarah Dedmon Capel. Obstruction of justice. Not murder. Not kidnapping. Obstruction of justice. This suggests investigators believe the family has been hiding information, interfering with the investigation, lying to authorities. But why not murder charges? Why not kidnapping charges? Maybe because they don't have enough direct evidence. Maybe because they haven't found Asha's body. Maybe because the person who actually killed Asha, Russell Underhill, is already dead. Or maybe they're waiting. Waiting for someone from the Dedmon family to finally talk. Waiting for someone to break under pressure. Waiting for someone to confess. On April 4, 2025, the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office announced it was partnering with multiple agencies to search a property in Lincoln County in connection with Asha's disappearance. Records suggest the land was purchased by the current owner in 2004 from Roy Lee Dedmon and his wife Connie. 2004. The same year Russell Underhill died. Was this the location where they buried Asha's body? Investigators haven't said what they found, if anything. But the search continues. 25 years after her disappearance, the search for Asha Degree continues. Asha Degree's disappearance devastated her family and the entire Shelby community. Harold and Aquila Degree never gave up on their daughter. For 25 years, they've lived with the agony of not knowing what happened to Asha, of not knowing if she's alive or dead, of not being able to give her a proper burial if she's dead, of not being able to hug her if she's alive. Aquila has repeatedly said she believes Asha is alive. I'm not crazy enough to think that a 9-year-old can disappear into thin air without somebody knowing something, she said. But in her heart, I think Aquila knows that after 25 years, the odds of Asha being alive are almost zero. If Asha were alive, she would be 34 years old now. She would be an adult woman. She would have found a way to contact her family. Unless she was being held against her will all this time. Unless she had been raised elsewhere, not knowing who she really was. But investigators now believe Asha is a victim of homicide. They believe her body was concealed. Asha is dead. And someone knows where her body is. O'Brien, Asha's brother, was only 10 years old when his sister disappeared. He's now 35. He's lived most of his life without his little sister. He grew up without her. He became an adult without her. O'Brien remembers the last night he saw Asha. He remembers hearing her bed creak in the middle of the night. He thought she was just moving in her sleep. He didn't wake up to check. For years, O'Brien has wondered, what if I had woken up? What if I had checked? Could I have stopped Asha from leaving? Could I have saved my little sister? It's a terrible burden to carry. A guilt he shouldn't have. Because O'Brien was a child. It wasn't his responsibility to watch over his sister in the middle of the night. He couldn't have known what was going to happen. But survivor's guilt is real. Ann O'Brien has carried it for 25 years. Every year on February 14th, the Degree family and the Shelby community hold a march. They walk the path they believe Asha took the night she disappeared. From her home on Oakcrest Drive to Highway 18, 1.5 miles. They walk in the cold, sometimes in the rain, remembering Asha, keeping her alive in their hearts, hoping that someone, somewhere will finally speak. Dozens of community members join the family every year. People who never knew Asha. People who were only children when she disappeared. People who feel connected to this case, to this family, to this tragedy. Asha became known as Shelby's sweetheart. She was one of their own. She was a child who had attended the local school, played on the local basketball team, attended the local church. And then she simply vanished. The case captured national attention. It was featured on multiple news programs. It was covered on true crime podcasts. It became one of the best-known missing children cases in the United States. In January 2020, on the 20th anniversary of Asha's disappearance, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children produced an age progression of Asha. It showed what she might look like at 29 years old. The image showed a young woman with features similar to Asha's as a child, but with the maturity of an adult. Shorter hair, fuller face, but the same kind eyes. The image was widely distributed. It appeared on the news. It was shared on social media. People looked at the faces of young women around them, wondering, could it be her? But there were no confirmed sightings. The case had a profound impact on the Shelby community and surrounding area. Parents became more cautious. Children were watched more closely. Schools implemented new safety protocols. But it also sowed fear. If a child like Asha from a loving family could disappear without a trace, then no child was truly safe. Asha's disappearance also highlighted gaps in missing persons laws in North Carolina. Before Asha's disappearance, North Carolina didn't have a statewide protocol for missing adult cases. Each police department handled cases differently. Asha's father and other families worked to lobby the North Carolina state legislature to pass a bill establishing a statewide protocol for such cases. They wanted to make sure no other family had to go through what they were going through. The impact of Asha's case extended beyond North Carolina. It became a case study in missing children investigations. Investigators studied what went right, what went wrong, what could have been done differently. One of the key lessons was the importance of acting quickly. The Degrees reported Asha missing at 6:30 in the morning. The search began immediately. The media was notified quickly. But despite the quick response, Asha wasn't found. Because whoever took her acted faster. Whoever took her moved her away from the area before the search really began. Another lesson was the importance of forensic technology. The DNA found in Asha's backpack couldn't be properly analyzed with the technology available in 2000. But with advances in DNA analysis, particularly forensic genetic genealogy, investigators were able to link the DNA to the Dedmon family in 2024. If they had had that technology in 2000, maybe the case would have been solved years ago. Maybe Asha would have been found. Maybe the Dedmon family would have been arrested before they could destroy more evidence. But we can't live in maybes. We can only deal with reality. And the reality is that Asha Degree has been missing for 25 years. Her body has never been found. Nobody has been arrested for her death. Her family lives in perpetual agony. The FBI, Cleveland County Sheriff's Office, and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation continue to actively work the case. They have a team dedicated to finding Asha. Detective Tim Adams, who came out of retirement in 2014 to lead the department's probe, said, "The fact that it was a small child that left on Valentine's Day really caught everybody's heart in this community. She's been called Shelby's sweetheart because she's a child that's one of our own that has gone missing, and we want to find out what happened to her." Adams continued, "We strongly believe that there is someone out there that may have a piece of information that will help her. No matter how small or minor it may seem, it might be extremely crucial to further us getting one step closer to Asha." The FBI and Cleveland County Sheriff's Office are offering a combined reward of $100,000 for information leading to finding Asha. The governor of North Carolina announced in June 2025 a $25,000 reward for information related to Asha's disappearance. The information would have to lead to the arrest and conviction of the person or persons responsible for Asha's disappearance to qualify for the reward. $125,000 total. For any information. For any tip. For anything that could help solve this case. But so far, despite all the rewards, despite all the media coverage, despite all the technological advances, Asha remains missing. And her family continues to wait for answers. It's February 2025. 25 years have passed since Asha Degree disappeared from her home in Shelby, North Carolina. If Asha were alive, she would now be 34 years old. She would be an adult woman. Maybe she'd be married. Maybe she'd have children. Maybe she'd have a career. But investigators now believe Asha is dead. They believe she was a victim of homicide. They believe her body was concealed. The question is no longer whether Asha is alive. The question is, where is her body? How exactly did she die? Who is responsible? After 25 years of investigation, there are some things we know with absolute certainty. We know Asha left her home voluntarily sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 in the morning on February 14, 2000. She had packed a backpack with clothes and personal items beforehand. This suggests planning. It suggests she had some kind of plan or reason to leave. We know she was seen by multiple witnesses walking alone on Highway 18 around 4 in the morning. She was approximately 1.5 miles from her home. She was walking in the opposite direction of her school. She was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt, white pants, and was carrying her backpack. She wasn't wearing a coat. We know that when a driver tried to approach her to help, Asha ran into the woods alongside the road and disappeared. That was the last confirmed sighting of Asha. We know she briefly sought shelter in a tool shed at Turner's Upholstery, where she left some of her personal items. We know that a year and a half later, her backpack was found buried in Burke County, 26 miles north of where she was last seen. The backpack was wrapped in 2 black garbage bags. Someone had buried it deliberately. We know that inside the backpack were items that didn't belong to Asha. A New Kids on the Block t-shirt and a Dr. Seuss book from her school library. We know that DNA analysis linked material from the backpack to AnnaLee Dedmon Ramirez, who was 13 when Asha disappeared, and Russell Underhill, a man who lived in facilities operated by the Dedmon family. We know that a green 1964 car owned by Roy Dedmon matches descriptions of the vehicle witnesses reported seeing Asha get into. We know that in 2024, a witness came forward saying that at a party in the mid-2000s, he heard Lizzie Dedmon Foster, who was 16 when Asha disappeared, say, "I killed Asha Degree," while extremely intoxicated. We know that text messages between the Dedmon sisters in 2024, after investigators began investigating them, show panic, fear, and consultations with lawyers. We know that Lizzie Foster failed a lie detector test when asked if she was concealing information. And we know that as of February 2025, nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been charged. The case remains technically unsolved. These are the facts. Everything else is theory. Everything else is speculation. So what don't we know? We don't know exactly why Asha left her house that night. Was she planning to meet someone? Had someone convinced her to leave? Was she running away from something even though there were no signs of problems at home? We don't know how Asha knew the Dedmon family. Was there any prior connection? Did Roy Dedmon operate care facilities that Asha's family had access to? Had the Dedmon daughters met Asha at some community event? We don't know what happened exactly after Asha ran into the woods. Did someone pick her up on Highway 18? Was it the Dedmon family? Was it Russell Underhill? We don't know how Asha died. Was it an accident, as Lizzie Foster's text messages suggest? Was it intentional? What exactly happened? We don't know where Asha's body is. Investigators have been searching. They've searched multiple properties. But so far they haven't found her remains. We don't know if anyone will finally be arrested and charged. Investigators believe they have probable cause for obstruction of justice charges. But will it be enough to bring the case to trial? Will it be enough to get convictions? 25 years later, these questions remain unanswered. But there is hope. Hope that finally, after all these years, the case is moving toward resolution. Advances in DNA technology have been crucial. Forensic genetic genealogy, the same technology that helped catch the Golden State Killer, has helped link evidence from Asha's backpack to the Dedmon family. Investigators have been working meticulously, building their case piece by piece. They've interviewed hundreds of people. They've followed hundreds of leads. They've executed multiple search warrants. And they're convinced that someone in the Dedmon family knows what happened to Asha. Someone knows where her body is. Someone knows the truth. The question is, will anyone talk? Lizzie Foster has failed a lie detector test. She's refused to talk to investigators without a lawyer present. Her text messages suggest she knows something. Sarah Capel has also refused to talk. Her text messages show panic and fear. AnnaLee Ramirez, whose DNA was found on Asha's clothing, has also refused to fully cooperate. Roy Dedmon, the family patriarch, through his attorney, denies any knowledge or involvement. But investigators aren't convinced. They believe the family is lying. They believe the family has been obstructing the investigation for 25 years. And now, finally, the pressure is mounting. The searches, the search warrants, the public text messages, the media coverage. The Dedmon family is under intense scrutiny. And maybe, just maybe, someone will finally break. Someone will finally talk. Someone will finally tell investigators where Asha's body is. Because without a body, it's difficult to get a murder conviction. Without a body, it's difficult to prove how Asha died. Without a body, Asha's family can never have real closure. But even without a body, prosecutors can sometimes get convictions. If there's enough circumstantial evidence, if there are confessions, there's DNA, if there are witnesses, and in Asha's case there are all those things. The question is, will it be enough? Detective Tim Adams, who has dedicated years of his life to this case, believes it will be solved. "We really believe that this can be solved and we're determined to solve it," he said. Adams continued, "It's not a cold case. We're not going to let it go. This is something we really feel like can be solved." Lieutenant Jordan Bowen, who oversees the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office Investigative Division, is the same age Asha would be now, 34 years old. This makes the case especially personal for him. "It makes it hit home," Bowen says. "We're committed to finding out what happened to her, because it's not an unsolved homicide or anything like that. This is a child that's out there that has not been found yet, and we're committed to making it happen. For Asha's family, hope is all they have. Hope that finally, after 25 years, they'll get answers. Hope that finally they can bring Asha home. Hope that finally they can give her the burial she deserves. Asha Degree, Asha's mother, is now in her 50s. She spent nearly half her life searching for her daughter. She spent 25 years wondering what happened. She spent 25 years unable to sleep at night, thinking about Asha, wondering where she is. Harold Degree, Asha's father, has also carried this burden for 25 years. The last check he made on his children was at 2:30 in the morning on February 14, 2000. Both were asleep in their beds. A few hours later, Asha was gone. And Harold has wondered for 25 years, what if I had checked one more time? What if I had woken up when she left? Could I have stopped her? But Harold couldn't have known. No parent could have known. O'Brien, Asha's brother, is now 35 years old. He's lived longer without his sister than with her. But he's never forgotten her. He's never stopped searching for her. He's never stopped hoping that someday they'll get answers. If you're listening to this and you know anything about what happened to Asha Degree, please speak up. Call the FBI at 704-672-6100. Or call the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office at 704-484-4822. Any information, no matter how small it may seem, could be the missing piece. Could bring Asha home. It could give her family the closure they've been seeking for 25 years. Asha Degree was 9 years old when she disappeared. She was a happy child. A loved child. A child with her whole life ahead of her. She left her house in the middle of a storm. And she never came back. 25 years later, her family is still waiting. Waiting for answers. Waiting for justice. Waiting to bring her home. And somewhere, someone knows where she is.